Shall I animate it?
Yeah, please.
Shall I animate it?
Okay. Hello, friends. Good evening. This is Grandmaster RB Ramesh from Prochesstraining Training. So today, as usual, we are going to analyze the training game position, which was given to groups 2 and 4, 2 to 4, 2, 3, and 4. Basically, in group 2, we have players between 1400 to 1800, and group 3, we have players 1800 to 2200, and in group 4, we have players above 2200. So these are the groups, and every week we are having some training. We provide some interesting positions, and the players are expected to play among each other, and this way they get some playing experience in interesting and important positions. Okay, so here this is a game played between Michael Tal. White is Michael Tal and black is Petrossian, and this was played at Riga 1958. And black's position is worse for various reasons. One, this bishop is a bad bishop, right? The bishop d6, it is blocked by both these pawns, and as a result, the bishop is bad bishop. That's the first important thing. And the second is the c5 pawn is already under tremendous pressure. Both the knight and the white bishop and knight are attacking the c5 pawn. As a result, we are not able to free our bishop and knight. And another thing, this knight is under attack and the queen is forced to defend. So as a result, queen also becomes slightly passive. Knight is passive, bishop is passive. They're all doing defensive roles. And we are also threatening things like bishop g5 and so on. Or we can just take rook into f6. If queen f6, then bg5. And then the queen is trapped. Okay, so bishop f6, knight f6, then he will have problems on defending the c5 pawn. So you can see that black is under tremendous pressure. Now what happens is when we play games, when we play in tournament, then we will not get the positions we like all the time. Okay, many times we will reach position where um, things are not to our liking. Sometimes we are worse, our position is bad, and generally what happens is we give up. And I remember when I was young, when I was a young player, whenever I get into trouble, I used to feel very bad that how can I get bad positions, the ego part. Okay, it will hurt, and I would not want to play with a bad position in the tournament hall, because lot of other players, they will come and see our position and will be suffering in some bad position. So this can be quite hurting to our ego. So what I used to do, I used to quickly play whenever I get into a bad position. I will quickly play some cheap tricks, and if my opponent falls in the cheap tricks, then I will escape with a draw or he may even win. But if he avoids those cheap tricks, then I will lose without much of a fight. I'll just keep some traps, and if the opponent avoids the trap, I'll have problems. So I was not very good in fighting in inferior positions. I used to collapse very quickly whenever my position becomes bad. And I thought it is fine because I was not getting into trouble in every game or most of the game, only in few games. In most of the games, I was getting good positions because my opening preparation was good. Generally, I used to get good positions out of the opening. So what I used to think, okay, whenever I get good positions, I'll play for win. And that is happening a lot. But whenever occasionally I get bad positions, I will quickly lose what is there. And it looked fine to me, it made sense to me. But as I was maturing, growing old, and when I see, I became curious how other players who are strong handle bad positions. Do they also feel bad that others will come and look at them in their suffering in bad position? So I used to be very curious, and then I started watching this carefully. So when I'm playing game, I will go to other boards and see if any strong player is suffering in bad position. And then I will see to my surprise that there are many strong players who are suffering in bad positions against lower rated opponents. This is happening quite often. And then I used to think, okay, so this player has a bad position, so he has to lose. That is, he deserves to lose. I used to think like that. Okay, so it is my mistake for getting into a bad position. So if I have done a mistake, I should be punished. And it made a lot of sense. So I thought, okay, this player also made some mistake, got into trouble, so he will lose after some time. But then after half an hour, 1 hour, they are still playing. And these strong players, they think. And then I used to wonder, it is obvious the position is very bad. And what is there to think? Whatever you think, it is not going to help. The position is lost. We have to accept. I used to think like that. But the strong players, they keep thinking. Then I used to wonder what these guys are thinking in bad position. And then sometimes I see, or not sometimes, many times, these guys, they survive. Okay, somewhere opponent makes a mistake and these guys escape with a draw or even win. So then I realized defending in bad positions is not something we should be ashamed of. In fact, we should be proud about it. And if you see all the strong players, they are very good in defending in bad positions. Okay, so then I understood defending bad position is not something bad, but it is a strength. And it is a very important quality all upcoming players should cultivate, should develop. Okay, so in this position, if you see two former world champions, Tal and Petrossian, are playing, both are very strong, and Tal has outplayed positionally Petrossian. He has some attacking chances. He has a protected pass pawn. C5 pawn is weak. Bishop d6 is bad. So a lot of things are going in White's favor. But Petrossian came up with this move, rook f4. So it's an exchange sacrifice, very good exchange sacrifice. Very good in the sense, practically what it does is it changes the nature of the position. It completely changes the nature of the position. So now instead of Tal uh, till the previous move, he would have been thinking, okay, I have lot of positional advantages and also some chance to attack on the king side. Okay, so he will be thinking it will be a one-sided game where I will be on the offensive, my opponent will defend, and eventually I will win. But with this move, rook f4, the character of the game changes completely. And whenever a strong player has a good position, he will expect less resistance from us. Okay, especially when we play with lower rated players, they will not expect good resistance, and they'll be expecting us to make mistakes. And when we make mistakes, they will feel, yeah, I said so. Okay, but here what Petrosian did, and the exchange sacrifices, this positional exchange sacrifice. Now black did not give this exchange sacrifice for an attack. He's doing it for defensive purposes and positional reasons. So he's getting good control on the dark squares. For that he gives an exchange. So when suddenly now Tal has to think about how can I counter black's control on the dark squares, and there is no attack for me, and suddenly his bad bishop can even become a good bishop. So this kind of change in nature of the position can upset most players. And you see what happened in this game. Now this position is completely better for white, and even after rook f4, the position is better for white. Now one option which is possible is not take the exchange, but just take the pawn. Not take the exchange, but take the pawn. But here this square is weak, but the c5 pawn also he has to worry. Okay, so if he takes bishop f4, queen f4, then this pawn is still weak, and we are already threatening all this kind of things, and we'll have a healthy extra pawn. So queen f6. If he wants to keep the blockade on the dark squares, this is required, and we take. And it looks like after this, if he gets like this, knight e5 and f6, okay, then black should be completely fine. But the only problem in this plan is the c5 pawn. So let's see how white could have continued. He could just bring the last piece into action. And when he comes here, we come here. Okay, now the threat is not knight c5 because queen c5 is a check. Sorry, not queen f4, but queen f5. Okay, and now let's say if you take the pawn, okay, we give back the pawn, then he has this move. And it's not easy to defend this pawn because if rook c8, he has queen f7. Okay, so this calculation, and we have to find the move queen f2, and we should also realize its strength, that it is doing a double attack on f7 and c5, and the c pawn cannot be protected. So had white played this, he would have got a very good position, very good chances to play for win. But what Tal did, he took with this, and even here we already saw he could have done rook into f4 and given back the exchange, but he did not want to do that. They played 92. But now even here white is still better. Okay, but now the pressure here is less, and he has this outpost, two outpost, and this pawn on the 5th rank. So he went 95. I took queen into f4, and there are no discovered check or anything, but he can take this pawn. And now it looks like black is doing very well, right? Now if you go back, then I can even take this and come bishop e5, bd4, and these pawns can be quite tricky, and the e4 pawn can be weak, and if you get queen h4, all these pawns e4 and h5, they are all weak, right? So black gets good counterplay. Okay, but here Tal played a fantastic move, a typical Tal move, and this is what we have to learn, which is whenever your opponent is trying to put you on the defensive, try not to go on the defensive, but always seek active counterplay. Okay, so he plays this move, very important move. Now the point is, if you play bishop e5, then he will take queen into c4. Okay, so it took with the knight, and he plays knight e4. So this is typical Tal reaction when in trouble. He's going for activity. So a few moves back, just look at the knight, how bad this knight looks, right? With these two pawns restricting the movement of the knight. But suddenly we see that his pieces are becoming very active. Now there is a lot of pressure at these 2 points, and there is some pressure here also. Okay, and here black has to play very accurately. Now we will naturally be worried about these things, pressure on these two, and c5 also there is some pressure. So we may think about moves like f6 so that the e5 gets some support. But what we have to realize is white has a very important threat, which is h6. If he plays h6, then on the dark squares, he will have a lot of problems. And suddenly if you play g6, this kind of mates can happen. Okay, so everything will be completely tight. So this move, so when black is playing an exchange down, he is playing a positional move. Now this is very difficult to do psychologically. And here, white is still better, but to find the winning move is not at all easy. And even if we see the move, to realize and understand that we are winning, that also is not easy. The assessment and finding the move, both are very difficult. Now he played the most natural move, rook e1. The threat is knight into d6, queen into d6, and win the e5 knight. Okay, but this is already the biggest mistake what white did. So you see, there is a big danger in playing most obvious moves in chess. And at the upcoming level, most players, they just without calculating play whichever move looks very logical. Okay, so this is a very good example to say most obvious moves many times can be completely wrong. So here what he should have done, he should have played b3 and blocked these 2 pawns. Okay, and then he can go either rook c1 or rook e1, all this stuff. Okay, but what he did, he played rook e1. Now why is this a mistake? It's not very easy or obvious, but he retains this bishop. Now this threat is there. Okay, and what is the point? The point is, now is going to play knight d3. This is the first threat, right? Knight d3 is coming. And even if you take knight c5, knight d3 will come. For example, even though the knight controls, you can still do this because it's a double attack. Okay, so knight d3 is a very serious threat now. Now, to stop knight d3, he played rook d1, but then the pawn is able to roll. This is the reason why he should have played b3. Now, had he played b3, and in this case, threatening queen d5, you could have come rook d1. Now c4 is not a problem because the pawn is on b3. So you see these small details, they are very important in chess. And if we want to become strong players, we have to enjoy finding such small detail moves. Okay, we should pay very good attention. But in the game, he played rook e1, bb8, threatening knight d3, and then rook d1 to prevent knight d3. He played c4. Now, after c4, Tal played d6, and typical Tal style. This is the only strength he has, and he uses the strength. Now the knight is attacked, so the knight has to move. So Petrossian goes forward. Now this is already becoming very difficult for white because suddenly the king is becoming weak. We are having some threats like queen check, sorry, bishop a7 check, king h2, queen h4 mate. These kind of mating attacks are coming. And sometimes you can ruthlessly take this pawn also if the queen moves away. And you are also threatening like knight d3, knight to b2, and then you will have two connected pass pawns, right? So all these threats, it looks very scary. But even here, he can play this. Now, this is ruled out. And if you play queen d7, threatening bishop a7, then you should give back the exchange because the knight was too strong on the 6th rank. Now, if you go bishop a7, it's a mistake. He will come rook d4 and you will become a piece up after bd4, queen d4. So this is wrong. So you have to take cd3, then queen d3. Now, because of this pawn and the knight support, white gets enough counterplay. Okay, so this is what he should have done. But instead of queen e3, and this is move 40, so probably they were under some time trouble already. That's why you can understand few mistakes are happening. Tal played queen g4. Now after queen g4, he is even worse. And let's say what happened. Petrosian gave bishop a7 check, king h1. And now some attack on these ideas are coming. Okay, d7. So Petrosian played a fantastic move, f5. Now, if rook f5, it's a blunder because rook f5, queen f5, queen h4 check. This is the point. The queen, it was at this point, the queen is controlling, stopping my our black's queen h4 check, right? And also it is controlling this square. So the queen is overloaded, controlling f5 square and h4. So by playing f5, we want to divert the queen to f5 so that you can get queen h4 check. It's like mate, so queen h3 is forced, and then we play queen e4. Two pieces for rook, and now we are threatening this. Okay, and black is winning. So for this reason, he played f5. Now probably this tactic he missed. And again, same logic. Now it looks like white is completely hopeless. If you move the queen, I will take f into e4 or queen h4 check. So it looks like white is completely lost. But again, we see strong players, when they are in difficult position, they somehow find some good resources to save the game. Okay, so let us see what Tal did. Typical Tal move. Okay, now the point is, why did he do this? He realizes he is going to lose some material, or he has to allow queen h4 to save the material. But that is also worse. But then he sees, if I can take queen into c4 check, then I can win the d3 knight, right? But the path for the queen to c4 pawn is blocked by the knight. So he throws the knight away with tempo. Okay. Now, if you take with the queen or rook, then queen c4 check, and he can take rook into d3, and there is no queen h4 check, and again white will win because he's an exchange up, and the d pawn is still alive. Okay, so Petrosian plays the calm move, king h8. Okay, now again, this is a threat. Not only that, this is also a threat. Not only that, this is a threat, right? Winning the pawn, even knight f2 check is a threat. So you can see there are multiple threats in this position. So it took. Now the knight is attacked. He goes here. If knight f2, you have taken rook f2. Okay, and the d pawn is still alive. So this is important. Now knight attack and queen attack. So if you move the queen back, he can take the rook and then take the knight also. So it again looks like white's position is in big trouble, but Tal continues with active counterplay. So whenever you are in trouble, like I say, always play the active moves. Okay, don't go back. Always go forward. Okay, and that gives you good chances. Now this attack took knight d1. Now he took queen a7. Now we have a choice. We can move the knight or take his knight. He took queen d6. This way, he is removing the very powerful pawn. Otherwise, these kind of threats were also there. Queen e7, d e7, and the pawn will be very dangerous. So it first removes this dangerous pass pawn. Now the knight is under attack, and it has no way to go out. Okay. And he also has this pawn, very advanced pass pawn. So it looks like black is winning, and it is true, black is winning. But you see how Tal defends. In an apparently lost position, he creates problems. Queen d7, fantastic move. Now if queen d7, knight d7, then d1 will be lost. So took queen f6. Now we took queen d1. Why queen d1? This is to stop this pawn, right? If you take with the rook, then you have to worry about this check also. Not only that, the b pawn also can be a very big distraction. Okay, so he took queen d1. Now we cannot push, and even if you come queen check king g1, the h pawn is protected. Okay, you cannot take the h pawn. So this is the critical moment in the game. So Petrosian, from having a bad position, he sacrificed an exchange and created practical problems. Even though his position was bad, he created a lot of practical problems. And this is what we have to learn. Now, even strong players, when they are faced with a situation where they have to keep on finding very accurate moves to keep the advantage or to keep the equal position, then at some point, even strong players can collapse and make mistakes. So we should not underestimate the value of psychological pressure. So it's not just the moves that put pressure, the psychological pressure also has a lot of importance. And here, what Petrosian should have done is he should have played queen a6. Now the queen is attacking this. We are threatening queen into a5, after which black will be 2 pawns up and simply winning. Already black is 1 pawn up. And after queen into a5, he will be 2 pawns up. Not only he is threatening queen a5, he is also threatening b3, b2. Because if queen into b3, the rook will be hanging. Right? So there are multiple threats. So he could play queen a1, saving the pawn, saving this. But now the queen has moved away from this h5. Okay. So what you can do some small dance. You can go queen e2 to take the pawn, forcing him to come. And now instead of coming all the way back to queen a6 and making it, you stop here. Okay. Now you are again threatening this and keeps pressure. So now what you can do, you can play f4. Now you are threatening this. Okay. And the queen cannot defend a pawn, h pawn, and the rook. If you go queen d1, I can take queen into a5. 2 pawns up and we will win. And not only that, we can also push b3, idea b2. Okay, so everything is winning. So you see, queen a6 would have won the game for black, but he played rook b8. This is also fine. He just wants to roll this pawn and he wants the queen in f6, which will also keep the black king safe and also threaten queen h4, queen into h5, these ideas. So he plays rook behind the pass pawn. This is still not bad, and Tal stops the pawn advance. And here, now the drawback of this is it blocks the protection for the h pawn. So he could have played queen g5, threatening to take the pawn. Okay, so this would have won the game, or even a cool move like rook b5, because there is no queen d8 check. The queen is controlling. So when you clear the back rank, you are not weakening it too much. Now the threat is rook a5, rook a1. The drawback of the rook coming up is the first rank has been weakened. So he could have played rook b5, and also one other threat is f4. So from rook b5, it is threatening rook a5, rook a1. It is threatening b3, b2. It is also threatening f4, rook into h5 check. Okay, so this position would have also won the game. So either queen g5 or rook b5, Petrossian would have won the game. But he attacked the pawn in a different way. Instead of rook b5, he played rook a8. But here, Tal found a fantastic move, queen e1. Now, after this, the position is completely equal. Now, the point is he gets this pawn, and then it will be 2 versus 3 on the same side. So he took rook into a5, and he lost this very important pawn. And now this king is also weak. Okay, so he played here and queen f4. So this position, even though white is still under some pressure, he is not worse. Okay, because now the queen is stuck to the rook is stuck to the pawn, and white played for a long time. Black played, white defended well, and after many moves, they agreed for a draw. Okay, but this is 3 versus 2 same side pawns, and with major pieces, without a knight, usually same side pawns will end in a draw, and that's what happened in this game. So you see, from a difficult position, Petrosian even came very close to winning because of the exchange sacrifice. So the creative way to fight back in a difficult position, and this is a very good quality we should also try to implement in our thinking. Okay, fine. So thank you everyone for attending this session. We'll meet again next week, same time.